Hey, what's up? Hello, griefsense familia. How we doing today? If you don't already know what the movement is about, it's about normalizing griefsense. What does that mean? That means normalizing conversations around death. And we do that through holding space to talk about loss, confronting our mortality. And we also do this through the lens of social justice, creative expression, community care, as well as pop culture. So as you interact with these episodes, please reflect on how griefsense shows up in your life. And if you have a story that you'd like to share with us, please feel free to reach out. You can reach us at info@griefsense.com via email. Now with that, hope you enjoyed today's conversation. Welcome back, listeners of griefsense. I am your host, Mimi Gonzalez, and today we have a special treat for you all. I have the pleasure of having Thomas Family Ties. Follow them on Instagram. And this is the first time I'm having two people on the show, which they're a couple. And they are what we may call a power couple, for sure, because they inspire me daily.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And I am just so honored to have them on today. And I think you're going to learn a lot and take away from their stories individually, but of course, both as a collective as well. They're just really doing amazing work, not only in our community, but nationally as well on social media. And I just think more people need to know about their story. So if there's any role that I can play in amplifying their story, I want to do that. And this is how we're going to do this today. So before we jump deep into the conversation, because we know on griefsense it's going to get real deep, and just the nature of who we are as individuals and close friends, we are really deep. There's no such thing as surface level with us. I just also want to give you both the opportunity to introduce yourselves, and then we'll jump right in. So Pop, do you want to start us off?
Yes, I'll start. I'm Chef Pop, been working in the kitchen for a long time. Finally got the chance to, make one of my dreams come true of opening a restaurant. And I've been working at it since.
Yeah. You're so modest. Hold on. We need to run that back really quick. What's the name of the restaurant?
SoulBowls. So I'm one of three owners of SoulBowls. We've been open for about a year now and things have been going pretty good. And I'm excited for our future.
There we go. Awesome.
Oh, goodness. My name is Amonnie. I am a wife, a mother to a beautiful 2-year-old. I'm his support partner. I've helped him a lot through his journey, and we're excited to be here. Mimi, thank you for having us. I feel like this is such a beautiful thing you're doing because this is a side of podcasting that is not really talked about.
Right.
So I'm so excited to be here, and I'm proud and happy that you're giving this space, a shine.
And it's also adding a sense of calmingness to it because this is a side of life that no one really wants to deal with until it happens. Right. And then it's just you never know what's happening in that space.
Right. I really am grateful that you just said that because that's honestly been my whole mission. And it wasn't I woke up one day and be I'm going to make my life and talk about death and I'm going to, but it's just something that's been such a huge part of my life with so much loss that it's okay, how am I going to channel all of this trauma and negativity into something? And it's not necessarily positive, right? It's not the most positive thing to talk about, but it's real. And it's how can we talk about these real life, inevitable truths of life and how can we face them together? These are the things that people always face alone, or there's always some type of shame or resentment with it. And it's just why? Let's just do it together.
In life, this is the only thing we're guaranteed. So how are we not planning for this? How are we just leaving it up to, time?
When it comes,
That's always what I say. I'm this is the most number one inevitable thing we're all going to face, but it's the number one thing we never planned for. Make it make sense. The math never maths with that. It just doesn't make sense. Yeah. So how can we break this really big problem and challenge into something that's more, I don't want to say simple, but just more manageable? How can we, and we don't have to face it alone. And that's what this is all about. Honestly, I have multiple visions with the podcast, but one of them is definitely having different people share their perspectives on their personal grief stories and how are they showing up in their life with purpose? Or how are they how are they making the best out of a really shitty situation, you know, and how have they helped other people along the way, you know, and like not everyone has to have this grand purpose in life. Like, it's okay if we're just human and we're existing and we're just living a beautiful human existence. Like that's more than enough. But it's like in our human existence, we experience really unimaginable things. And how do we make these things make more sense and help each other along the way? So thank you for that. So like every Grief Sense podcast episode, we start with who we're honoring. Sometimes, you know, folks want to honor their ancestors or people that maybe they've lost recently or a few years ago. So I want to give y'all space and the opportunity to honor anyone who has transitioned in your life. And I mean, I know as a close friend, of course, but I want people to kind of just hear directly from you. And yeah, feel free to share as much as you'd like.
So definitely we'll be honoring our son, Hendrixx St. Thomas, who he unfortunately didn't make it. I birthed him, but he wasn't able to stay in life after he came out. And you want to honor somebody else?
Yeah, so definitely our son is the first person. I have actually two other people too. One of my best friends in high school, John. He's like my first encounter that was a close person that I knew that died. And then my great grandmother, Moon. She just passed away last summer. And I had a connection with her when I was a kid, but I definitely think her blessing is what led to like me transpiring the way I did, because there's a lot of untold things that happened that made me who I am today. And I definitely think she had a lot to do with it, for sure.
And y'all went to Jamaica for that one, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I echo your sentiments and also honoring the three people you mentioned. Of course, especially John. That one was such a hard loss for our whole community. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I still can't even believe that happened. Just sometimes it's like just a nightmare, you know. But thank you for honoring them. Especially, I'm just grateful for your son as well, because I feel like just that has strengthened you as individuals and as a couple, and you both are so open about it, and that's something I really admire about you, because you see a lot of couples and parents that go through these losses, but they're very, you know, they keep it to themselves, and that's completely okay, right? To each his own, like privacy and things. But I just really admire that. I think we share the notion that, you know, the more you share and the more open you are about your story, the more you help other people share their story, you know, and I just think there's so much power and community in that. So that's, of course, why I wanted to have y'all on the show, because that is such a tragic and traumatic experience to go through. And I wish that upon nobody. Right. Nobody. Yes, and so, well, why don't we just kind of jump into that a little bit, as much as you're open, kind of maybe just talk about your grief story, how these losses have impacted you as individuals, or just anything you'd like to share.
So in 2019, in October, we got pregnant, and that was our first pregnancy ever. And we found out it was a boy, and we were so excited because we wanted a boy first. Like, you know, you want a baby boy to protect all your younger siblings coming, you know?
Real quick. We were so excited, we didn't even wait to do a gender reveal. As soon as we got the results, we wanted to find out.
Yeah, I couldn't even wait for him to get home from work. I called him on the phone. I was like, I got the result. Like, let's open it, like, right now. So, like, we were so excited for that. So, fast forward, maybe we got pregnant in October. Fast forward to February. I had an anatomy scan, which was past 20 weeks. If you know anything about pregnancy, you get an anatomy scan around 20 weeks. So I had an anatomy scan. Everything was looking great. You know, everything was fine. Then I was in esthetician school at the time. I was in class maybe a week after that anatomy scan, and I felt a gush of water, and I was like, oh gosh, what's that about? And my water ended up breaking at 21 weeks. So he had rushed to come and get me and pick me up from school. We only had one car at this time. And then after he got me, we were headed to my hospital so I could get the best care, because they know all my medical history and things like that. I was all the way in North Haven. We only made it to Meriden. We had to end up going to Meriden Hospital because our tire popped. We had to call the ambulance. It was a whole crazy big fiasco. Actually, nobody even knows all this that happened.
Yeah, right.
So then when we got to Meriden Hospital, at first they didn't want to take me because they were like, well, she has her own hospital. They were giving us a runaround. And the EMT was like, well, we can't pass this hospital to get her to her hospital. Like, give her care now. She needs the care. Wow. So I feel like they kind of didn't give me the best care just because they really weren't receptive to taking me in the first place.
Right.
So then I ended up getting sent home. I checked in with my doctor the next day, and they told me pretty much like if I was able to keep the baby in me for about another week, then they could incubate him. Then they could incubate him and he would have a chance to survive. Wow. But since he was just 21 weeks, they can't incubate a baby that small. So we're hoping and praying. I was on bed rest. I was at home just laying down, not moving, not doing anything.
What happened was they told us when they sent us home, they said, if you strike a fever, come back to the hospital.
Fever, it chills. So I was fine. Like, I was like, we're going to get through this. So this had been 2.5 days past my water breaking. And then one night I like tapped him and I'm like, I was uncontrollably shaking.
The chills.
I had chills. My fever was crazy. And when we went in, they were like, you were at risk for passing away with your baby.
Right.
So they were like, we have to take him out now.
Because the baby's wasn't in the fluid.
He wasn't in the fluid anymore. Yeah.
So like he was susceptible to just bacteria pretty much at that point. And it just multiplied. Yeah.
So then I ended up having to push out a baby that I didn't want to push out because it wasn't time for him to come out, So it was a pretty sucky situation. And then he came out. He survived for 7 minutes on his own. Unfortunately, those 7 minutes he spent with the doctor, which I feel like I regret all the time. I wish I would have just held him, But in the moment, I was just like,
so inconsolable.
That would kill me to just hold a baby and then I know. So we spent about 24 hours with him after he passed away. We were able to spend 24 hours with him. My whole family came, my grandmother, my sisters, my cousins, everybody came to visit him, take pictures with all of us and stuff like that, and be there for us. My dad, my mom. It was a crazy time though. Because thinking about holding your kid and he wasn't alive, what I'm saying?
Even just watching the delivery of him, knowing that wasn't how it was supposed to be. It was crazy.
And I remember feeling like I wanted him out the room because I didn't want him to go through that pain because it was so painful. And then him watching and knowing he couldn't do anything, I could just hear his cries. And I feel like that broke my heart so bad because it's like, damn, like my body is failing me, but now we both have to deal with it, Like that's what I was thinking in the moment. But yeah, that was pretty much the situation that happened.
And then, so at that point, what was it? Anything over 20 weeks? Anything over 20 or 21 weeks, they have to have the funeral. You have to have a funeral service and the whole nine. So we had to go through that whole process.
Yeah, we had to go through, and that wasn't easy either. Sitting with the funeral service home, and we haven't even had a kid yet. We just had one, and we're already burying him. That was really hard.
I didn't even know.
He didn't even talk in it. My grandmother and my aunt came with us. They were a very big support in that time, and they were able to talk for us because he couldn't talk. I just kept breaking down crying. It was hard. And they were there for us during that. We had the funeral. It was a beautiful funeral. And then, I think that situation catapulted Papa's Kitchen into Soul Bowl because after that situation,
it was just go mode.
I feel like if we always talk about this all the time and we're like, if we would have sat and soaked in it so hard,
it would have ate us apart.
We would probably still be too depressed to this day. Yep. We really would.
Possibly couldn't have even probably made it through that because, I mean, who knows what could have came from it. We just literally took that energy and said, we're going to
put it into something else. But also at the same time, we allowed ourselves to cry, to heal. We took, our much needed break. And then when we realized hey, we know we're going to see our baby again one day. And we know that when we see him, we want him to say wow, look at all my parents did up until the point that they got back to us. Right. So I think that's what really pushed our energy into something different.
As opposed to just letting it eat us apart.
Right.
And what's ironic is I was driving trucks at the time. So I told him the situation. And we after the baby passed, wow, this is crazy. She had previously got a back surgery because of the truck accident. She was like, I'm never getting in the truck. After we lost the baby, she was like, I'm going to come on the road with you because I don't want to be home alone. We were on our way to New York City and the truck broke down. We ended up heading back home and quit the job. And then that's when everything changed for us. It was at a crossroads, two crossroads, losing my job, just lost our kid, and we're like, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
And we're just like, as long as we could together, we could figure this thing out, and we just made it work that way.
Wow. I mean, I got chills, started getting emotional. Like I have all the goosebumps on my arm right now because I just can't believe that y'all experienced them. Like I feel like I've known, but like you guys sharing to the depth that you just shared, I mean, it just hits different, and y'all physically lived through that, you know, and I am just so grateful that y'all have each other to have gone through that together. Yeah. But what's so wild is that you could have also lost your life, Amonnie, you know, and that is so scary because it's like, wow, like Pop, you could have lost your wife and your baby, and the fact that you're still here, like obviously I wouldn't wish that, and I, you know, don't want you to have experienced this, but I'm just so grateful that you're still here and that you're still with us. And something that I really admire about you, Amonnie, is that no matter what happens, you're still willing to try to have more children, and you did. You guys continue to do that, and you've had a beautiful baby Nova, you know, and that's something I think is so powerful because I know people who would just be so scarred and wouldn't try again. And the fact that you're open to just being a mom and being the mom that you are and seeing the woman that you are, I mean, it's just incredible.
Thank
the journey.
Can we actually talk about that for a second?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Because so that situation happened, and then we got pregnant with Nova, had Nova healthy.
Wait, she found out she was pregnant with Nova on a Hendrixx original due date.
Oh, right. I found out I was pregnant with him on Hendrixx due date. Then Nova comes out a year later on his birth and death date. He literally came out a complete, like exactly a year later. I was due for a induction 3 days after she actually came out. So she just started going on herself. And I literally was in labor for over 30 something hours. And she waited all the way until the next day to make sure she came out on her brother, on the same day as her brother. Yeah. That literally blew everybody's mind. Even like the people, when we went to go pick up her birth certificate and we had to pick up his death certificate together, they were looking at it like, what? Like, you had lost a baby on this day and gained a baby on this day?
Wow.
How crazy is that? Like that, it still blows my mind to this day.
That was a gift from Hendrixx.
Yeah,
literally,
100%.
We couldn't believe it. We're like, he literally healed us, like, you know, through his sister. He was like, you know, I understand that you really wanted me to be here, but like, I feel like God needed him. And he said, but I'm going to send you somebody that you can hold on to and hold close to your heart so it could get you through this time. It was crazy.
Wow.
Is that what they call? Would Nova be considered a rainbow baby? Is that? So can y'all talk a little bit about that? What that means?
Yeah, and it's funny that she's called a rainbow baby because anybody who knows Nova knows that she has so much personality
and
energy. She's so smart. And it's like, it's crazy that they call her rainbow baby because I'm like, she is two kids in one. Like, she is his full year of life that he would have had and hers. Like, we add years on. Like, she's 2 right now, but she's really 3 because she's just so far ahead of her time and things that she has an intuition. And I tell him all the time, it scares me because her intuition, like, we won't tell her nothing. She's like, we're going to the park. Like, we didn't even say where we're going, but that's just on a small scale. She's told me the last time that I was pregnant, recently we went through the same thing again, which is also crazy that it happened twice. Unrelated though, but she was the first person that told me that I was pregnant. She kissed my stomach and was like, Mommy got a baby, and kept kissing my stomach and telling me I had babies. And I'm thinking, I'm just like, she's never seen a pregnant person. Like, there's no pregnant people in our life. Like, how does she even know where babies would be placed? And at this point, she had just literally freshly turned 2 3 days before. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a pregnancy test. I started to record it, but I was like, I'm not pregnant. I've never gotten pregnant naturally also. So I was like, I'm not pregnant. Took the test and I was pregnant. And I was like, girl, what the heck? Like,
that is crazy.
So yeah, they call them like rainbow babies because it's like they are so special. Like she's so special, and I'm just like so happy to be her mom. Yeah, she's so special. She's really special. Yeah.
Wow, that's just powerful. But well, Pop, how about you with this experience for you? Just kind of being by Amonnie's side as she's, the one physically kind of going through this, but I can only imagine the emotional toll this has taken on you.
truly just felt defeated. And like in that moment, I didn't really even know how to process the emotions. Besides, I was just like, we're just going to have to take this day by day because this is bigger than us. Like, we can't try to figure this out and just, you know what I'm saying, come up with a solution to what caused it. So I just was like, as long as we're together, I feel like we made it through this situation. There's nothing that can separate us now. Yes. So really, I was just like, together, we're just going to take it day by day. Yeah. Don't try to put too much stress or pressure on the situation.
And I would have random breakdowns throughout the day. I would never forget one time we were driving and the sunset literally made me cry. Because I'm like, wow, my baby is not in the back seat seeing the sunset with us and he should be here. And I literally would never forget. I was in Massachusetts. We were on our way to my dad's house and I just bust out crying. But he always made sure after I was crying, all right, you want to talk about it? Let's have a conversation, you know, because that's important. Because sometimes we'll just push back our feelings and we won't really talk about it. But it's like, no, the more you talk, that's why I'm still able to talk about this specific situation, because it's like, I know that it's a greater purpose, if that makes sense. Even on social media, I've never known anybody for this to happen to. And I found out people in my family have experienced it. Right. People close to me,
it's a lot closer than we think.
And it's like, wow, like, if I knew I had somebody similar, you know what I'm saying, like I can connect with on this, it would make it just a little bit easier. You know, not much, but just a little bit easier.
I feel that so much because, I mean, that's essentially why I started griefsense, because I feel that going through so much loss over and over again, like it started when I was young. Like I always say, like everyone's dealt a certain deck of cards at life. And I don't know, I guess the lucky card I got was a whole lot of loss and death. And I didn't choose this life. This life literally chose me. But with that, it's like no one just talked about it with me. Like, yes, my mom was super supportive for me and my family, but it's just like, it just hit different. Like this wasn't stuff that people were talking a lot about. And it wasn't, well, actually, Pop, you probably remember when we were in middle school, there was a couple suicides that happened when we were in middle school. One of them was was our friend Norberto. He had passed away by suicide, and there was another student that did that as well. And like, that's when like all of this started happening again. Like when I had some type of understanding of what was going on, and like it really hit everybody at once. And like just when you see the whole community grieving, like it was just so wild to me. But still, in that, not enough language, not enough tools. No one was really talking about this or really what suicide even was, and like what would drive someone to do that. So as life just continued to go on and more people unfortunately continued to pass away in my life, I was just like, bro, I want to just create a community where we are openly talking about this. Like, we don't have all the answers, right? We're not going to solve people from like not dying, but at least we can make it a little bit more manageable for each other, at least, and just hold space to talk about it. Like, just be human, like check in with each other, instead of like how our society is now. We see like a wild news update that a school just got shot up or someone just died in our community. And what do? We keep scrolling. We keep scrolling. Or another young black male just got shot by the hands of police. Oh, keep scrolling. Like, I'm so tired of that. Like, granted, social media is always going to be social media, but the way I think social media is going, at least with responsible content creators, like the three of us, I would say, is creating community and like holding space to talk about these things that, like, everything is not this polished package when everything is great. Like, no, I love when content creators are like, yo, I had a shitty day. This is what happened, but this is how I'm kind of making sense of it. And like, that's what I love about you guys as well. You're very open and transparent.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
So, well, with that, Pop, did you want to talk about your grief story with John or with your grandmother?
Yeah, for sure. So with John, rest in peace, John. It's crazy because I didn't know him as long as everyone else in the community did. We knew each other my freshman year. I met him, but my junior year we really became tight because football season. I was finally on varsity. We were playing on the same team, and they started to see like we had the same drive pretty much. And ever since we met, we were locked in. I saw him every day from pretty much junior year up until a little bit after I graduated. So when he actually passed away, it really I don't know. It took me out for a minute because I saw him as such an innocent guy. Because like I was almost living a double life at the time. I used to be in the streets a lot. And then I had the West Hartford side that really grounded me to show me like there's more to life. You know what I'm saying? And John, in my eyes, yeah, he was just like me. He was a regular kid, but I didn't see him as someone that could even happen to. Because I was like, this guy, he lives in West Hartford. He's good. You know what I'm saying? When he passed away, I was like, dang. I really started to see how precious life really was. Yeah. And it grounded me. He got killed by, it was a fight at a party and the guy stabbed him.
Yeah. He didn't just pass away by, natural causes. He was taken,
it was a fight. He was murdered. It was a fight at a club. I don't know exactly what went on, but the guy stabbed him and that was it. Yeah. And at that point, I really started to see clearly. I was like, this guy, my best friend passed away trying to have fun. You know what I'm saying? Trying to enjoy himself on New Year.
Yeah. So on New Year, I will never forget that. That was the worst news that all of us got New Year's, bro.
And I changed my whole person. I didn't want to party. I didn't want to go out. All I wanted to do was work because I was like, I have so much I want to accomplish and I didn't do anything yet.
Yeah, from then we still have not been out on New Year's.
No.
We have not been out on New Year's.
And I don't even like to move out on New Year's. I like to stay in the house and just see the New Year because at the end of the day, it's just
watch the ball drop, call it a day.
Exactly. Yeah. So he was just the first person to let me know that death is real. Amongst other folks, but like that was the person I knew. And he passed away and I was just like, wow, life is really precious. Life is really short. And then even conversations with his mom, you know what I'm saying? It just really grounded me and made me realize like, if I want something, I just have to stay committed to that and try not to stray away from it because I don't want to leave the door open for any crazy, unfortunate events to happen.
Right. You didn't do what you needed to do.
Right.
On Earth. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I remember, I knew John through ex-boyfriend Stacy. And just teenage love, right? And John, we were always with John over at the house, hanging out. Stacy was always with John, like they were inseparable. So, wherever Stacy was, John was there too. And so I just really got to know John and his family. And, we were just young kids, like always doing what young kids do, and he was always laughing. I just remember him always, I will never forget his laugh. Like his laugh, I will never forget. And he was
those and start laughing.
Yeah, he always was like this. And like, I'm getting emotional thinking about it because he was just so funny and always just cracking jokes, prankster, and just, I remember when we all went to prom together and, and then like, I was in college when we got the news. And so we, me and Stacey had already moved on and we all got a little older and then got that news. Like I remember like I was at a New Year's dinner and my phone just dropped to the floor. Like I will never forget that moment. Like that was like so traumatizing.
That was actually our first New Year's together.
Yeah.
And I got the news like the
next morning. We were in a hotel and we woke up and we just left the hotel. Like, you were devastated. It was crazy.
That was
couldn't
just
even believe it.
So wild. And even like the funeral, I will never forget the funeral. Like seeing people that you grew up with, like blank, everyone had like a blank face. And I've been to a lot of funerals, but I will never forget John's end of life service because like everyone's face was just blank. Even when you like go up to like hug people, like it just felt lifeless, and even like when I paid my respects to his mom and his dad, like it was just, everyone was literally there like, how? Like that was just the main question. Like, how did this happen? Exactly. Why did this happen? I couldn't even look at Matt. I was like, bro. So that was just a big loss for our community. And I think after John's loss, though, I saw a lot of people in our community being really driven to do something, for our community, for people for the youth or for people in CT. Like, I think John's death was really a pivotal moment for a lot of people. And I saw that with you as well. So shout out to John and his whole family and rest in peace to his mom as well. So I'd like to spend some time focusing on how would you say your grief story or your, I hate to say this, but like your introduction to grief or your experience with grief, how has this maybe shaped your career choice?
Already had his career path chosen way before we even met. So, but for me, like, I really just support him and help him through what he's doing, but also like my influence on social media and stuff like that. I feel like that is in a way my career choice. And I think that just comes from me being in a place where I couldn't talk to my mom about it. I couldn't talk to my dad or anybody about it. So I think that it came from a place where like, okay, I can't talk to nobody about it because they haven't been through this specific thing. So let me use my voice, and I know I'm strong enough to be able to convey it to people where it's not going to be, you know, misconstrued or anything like that. And get this across on how like this happened to me, but also show you how I am actively overcoming that situation. Because also too, we just had another miscarriage in May. And I feel like that's really what jump started where I'm at in my life right now is that situation. I find myself realizing every single time something very traumatic happens to me, something else jump starts in my life and it catapults me to somewhere I've never been before. Like I've never felt how I feel about myself right now, or just in life, like how many people I talk to on a daily basis. I'm really kind of a shy person, more so than him, because he's like very outgoing. He takes the, you know, the shine away a little bit.
Pop is the social butterfly. He's a celebrity, honestly.
Right. Like
everyone loves Pop.
To him. And like I'm the opposite. So now I've been talking and connecting with so many people on social media, people who I don't know, people who I only had on social media and stuff like that, through just me sharing my journey and how I'm just overcoming the bad things. Because everybody always shares the good things. You know, it's easy to share the good things, but it's not easy to be vulnerable and share the things that break you down and then tell people or show them how you build yourself back up. Because sometimes people will build themselves up and then show you the later process, but rarely will you see somebody get torn down in front of your eyes and watch them build themselves up. So I think that's also important for anybody watching who also like has a platform out there. It's like, just tell people what you're going through, be vulnerable, but do it in the moment too. Because that just shows how human you are. And everybody's human here and we're all going through something, but you don't know how much that is actually going to help somebody.
And it gives clarity too.
And it gives clarity. And also too, in turn, helping other people also helps and feeds your own soul as well. And I think that's what helps.
Yeah, that was really awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So turning that over to you, Pop, too. So how would you say, you know, your experiences with grief, because I know you've had multiple entry points, if you will, into this. So how would you say this has shaped you, if at all?
So,
or your career choice?
I could say, first things first, with John, that being my first experience with death being so close, it motivated me to, you know what I'm saying, I realized that I didn't have time to just slack off and just partake in anything. I was really committed. That gave me the drive to stay committed to what I was trying to accomplish.
Because right after his death, that's the first time you started selling plates. Months after that was the first time ever you started actually selling plates under your own name, like not working in a kitchen or anything.
Right. I was like, I got to start something that I can continually work and build on.
Right.
So that gave me that drive to motivate and, you know, work harder. And then when my son passed away, I didn't want to get negative. I didn't want to turn into like a dark space. So I just had to channel that energy into going back to work and to just like, you know what I'm saying, laying those bricks every day so that I can continually build to where I was trying to go. Because I realized that in those times, you're more liable to do wild things. You know what I'm saying? Right. You're at your lowest point. You don't have a clear perspective of what's actually going on. So I was really just trying to use the energy to catapult me and just work. You know what I'm saying? That's the only way I normally came up working a lot. So that's the only way I could channel that energy for it to benefit me. And through that work, it has brought me through so many experiences that made me wiser.
Yeah. Because after our son passed, that we started Papa's Kitchen heavily like a month later, right? Oh, and from then it catapulted crazy. Like he literally,
I remember he had lines out the door. Like
he literally had 200 followers on Instagram. Then it went up to like 7,000, like within just one summer. But that was just him channeling the energy into something that he's seen in himself. And we started booking weddings. We did like 3 or 4 weddings. We just started doing so many things that you couldn't even see yourself doing when you were just in that, dark space. And then it's like, wow, look at how God rewarded me for working through my dark time in a positive manner instead of being negative about it.
Right.
And it was crazy. See, even to think back on it is so crazy every time I think about it.
And what's crazy, I talked about it a little earlier, but right after the incident happened with our son, we were on our way to New York City during COVID. So that's when COVID had first hit. I had gotten a little sick and we're on our way down there and my truck broke down. And it's crazy because we were just thinking, I'm like, yo, babe, we could go home and sell food or we could go to the city and be stuck during COVID. And at that point, she was like,
let's sell food.
Let's just go home. I was like, shh, all right. I turned around, went home. And then from that point forward, that's when everything started to take off. And it's just crazy because it's like, I was at a crossroads. If I would have went to New York, things probably would have been a little different today. But I'm glad that I, pivoted and just betted on myself and putting in that work. And we got to where we are today.
I love that. And one thing I also want to mention, we're Caribbean. I know Pop and I just Black Latino families. There's a lot of families or also where you are, your socioeconomic class in society definitely plays a role in how you deal with grief and the barriers that pull up. But especially I feel like in Caribbean families as well, like all we know is work and rest is non-existent. And it sucks because rest should not be a luxury. That should be a basic human right. But one thing, and like, even though I know work has definitely gotten you through, and honestly, it's gotten me through it too. I do want to pull out from their rest though, because, and rest takes on many forms, right? Rest isn't just like you staying at home and sitting on the couch all day. Like rest, I think also takes on the form of like things that give you happiness, things that give you peace, things that are helping or healing you, and things that don't make you feel like you're working. And I feel like even though the food industry and what y'all do with the food, it takes a lot of labor, physical labor out of you. It's labor of love. Like I know it comes straight from your heart. And I want to pull out from your story about what you're doing for the community, bro. Like you are feeding the community. Like I feel like you are healing the hood with your food. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, who else can say that? Like it's one thing to have a restaurant and just to have a restaurant, which obviously is no easy feat. Like we know this, but it's like you started a restaurant, you have an amazing team behind you. You have the community pouring into you because you poured into the community at a time that you were at your lowest. Like, if that's not, I don't know. That's just so beautiful.
It's crazy. Yeah.
It's crazy. And like, I think when people are genuinely doing things out of the goodness of their heart or with healing in mind, with community in mind, even though they're going through like really traumatic and tragic things in their own lives, only good things will continue to happen. Like, of course, there's going to be more storms ahead. But the fact that you've created so much good from your life and you pass that on to so many other people, like, not a lot of people can say that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So
definitely commendable for sure.
So, yeah. So, Pop, do you want to talk a little bit about, because, we get no shameless plugs out here. I want you to just kind of talk about SoulBowls, how SoulBowls has come to fruition, and just kind of talk about, just because, obviously I see it, and just for the listeners out there, my partner, Willie, is one of three. Pop is the other, and then there's Malik, who's the third, who is the amazing team behind SoulBowls. But I think that just the amount of success that you all have experienced in such a short amount of time, a lot of restaurant owners don't see that in like 5 to 10 years of being in business, and y'all are about to start your second one in only y'all going on it's only been 1 year.
It's been 1 year, right?
Yeah.
So I just would love for you to talk about SoulBowls, the food that you guys serve, what you're doing with the community, because y'all are doing a lot of great work with the community, and yeah, just spend some time talking with me about it.
So SoulBowls is a soul food restaurant. I like to say that we are the soul food version of Chipotle, quick, convenient, good service. And I feel like that's just a testament to when three people with the same energy align.
Right.
Because we have this conversation in the restaurant a lot. We all went on our own solo ventures and put in that work to try to get something off the ground, just try to make something happen separately. Right. And then now we all met at the point where we know what it takes to get something done. And now we're looking to further. So with the three of us combined, you know, it was a beautiful thing.
And you all bring something different.
We all bring different attributes to the table, but it's just, honestly, I'm really amazed a lot of the time, because it's like, I remember being in the kitchen like, damn, I can't wait to have a team. Right. I can't wait to, you know, grow a team and, you know, scale it with some people. And like, we all met at the perfect time. Mm-hmm. As far as SoulBowls go, like the thing you said with community, we are very driven on showing the kids who were like us, who wanted to do things but never saw how, or, you know what I'm saying? Our team right now, we have our youngest is about 18, and I think 16. Yeah, 16, my sister. So we're really big on just showing the next generation the steps that's necessary to, you know, get that goal or get those dreams that you have off the ground. We're trying to show them that, like, this is possible. It can be done. And then what teamwork behind working on a dream can do.
You have a mentee right now?
Oh, yes. So I just recently had a young kid.
15-year-old.
He's 15 years old. He's a
aspiring chef.
He randomly followed me on the gram, and I was like, dang, this kid is like young, and he really...
You're making cooking videos just like how he
just
would
like
be.
me. Yeah. I was like, wow, like I definitely want to, you know, do whatever I can to help him out. And I mean, that's pretty much what we focus on. We're just trying to show the youth that this is possible. Like, you could start a business, you could be successful in business,
and look like you. They've done segments at high schools.
Yep, we've
the Yard Goats, right?
Yep, Yard Goats Stadium. Yeah.
So we're just big on just community and just showing them that you have what it takes. You know what I'm saying? Yes. You just got to put in that work and work diligently to make that dream come to life.
And then also showing the community that a Black-owned business can have great customer service, because you guys have beautiful customer service.
Yes.
Everybody, exactly, because the family loves working there. Even on their off days, you see them there. Yep. Even people who stop working there are still there all the time. It's just because the culture that they have cultivated is just powerful.
Yeah.
It's great.
And shout out Malik and Will, because like we each bring something to the table that just makes the team. And it's a beautiful dynamic. I love it, because like, it's just crazy. I don't even know. I'm just thankful, really. To be blessed with two other folks who all are different, have different attributes that can further us. It's crazy.
And something I love too is that y'all each have amazing queens, like Amonnie and myself and Mexi along y'all side. Because and it goes for us too. I'm sure I don't want to speak for you, Amonnie, but it's like anything that we do in our lives, that you guys are literally right there behind us. And something I love about our stories and how they intersect is we're all only getting closer as people, as a community. The reason why I had asked that question, right, is because this whole word of grief sense, you know, so I'd love for you both to kind of talk about what this word means to you. But before you do, I just want to say, like, a big, I guess, medium that I like to use with grief sense is creative expression. And so the podcast is just one of many mediums that I'm using as a tool for my creative expression. But there's so many different ways that people express themselves. And something I love that we've talked about, you know, whether it's through culinary arts, right? Literally inspiring the community through food. But it's so much more than just food. It's a culture. Right. It's literally our culture. And like, that's just so beautiful. Yeah. And sharing our stories on social media and just being very open and raw and honest, right? And for me, you know, this podcast, I've always wanted to do a podcast, but I didn't know how. I didn't have like the state of the art equipment or, you know, but it's like, for me, I just wanted to get started, because how many times are we like, damn, I don't have everything I need. Right. And then we don't get started. Like, I'm not going to sit here sleeping on my, I'm not going to sleep on my progress, just waiting for perfection. Like, I'm going to get started today. And we'll see how things continue to unfold. But with grief sense, for me, it's like it all boils down, in my humble opinion, it all boils down to the loss that I've experienced. Because who I am today is because of the loss I experienced in the past. 100,000%. Because I know what it's like, right, when we see someone take their last breath, or we see someone like, they were just here, and then next thing you know, now they're not. It's like, I know grief sense to me is like appreciating life while you have it, and not waiting till things are gone to do the things that you want to do, to do the things to show your people love. You know, like there's so much that goes into that for me. But would y'all maybe take a moment, like when you hear the word grief sense, like what comes to your mind? Like, I'm just really curious. Like, what does that word mean to you?
I think grief sense, what I feel like it was a little bit different than what you said, how it affects you, right?
Yeah.
I thought like grief sense was just going into it, following your social media, not really even knowing anything. I'm going to give you my first impression of it, right? Knowing you, I automatically knew it was going to turn it into something positive. You know, you're going to definitely talk about what you went through, but then turn it somewhere in some way positive. But I also thought it was going to be kind of like what we talked about before we started, about, in a way, normalizing talking about death and getting comfortable with it. And that's what I got from grief sense. It was just like, this is going to give me a perspective of death in a different way than I've viewed it before, or it's been portrayed to me, in whether it be social media, family wise, or
Right. I love that.
What I took from grief sense is I thought it was just, you know what I'm saying, although it's a tragedy, although it's something that we don't really like to experience, just bringing out the beauty in that experience, the moments in which you know what I'm saying, really cherish that you shared with that person. And then just how it's going to change you going forward, because like now you don't have the person in the physical form, but they're still here spiritually, and you can still connect with them. But it's just if you choose to, and you can see the perspective of that.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And it's just, like grief sense to me is going to be like one of those words that has multiple meanings, you know, it has, it's multi-layered and it has multiple meanings, but similar to like SoulBowls, right? Like it's not just food, it's a culture thing. It's a community thing. Like that's how I envision this, is like creating community around something that bonds us together. It brings in a lot from like hip hop culture. It brings in food, it brings in tradition, it brings in hard conversations, it brings in content creation, like different forms of creative expression. I am just really excited to see how future guests on the show kind of how grief sense shows up in their life. And I don't want it to be like a stigmatized thing. Like, I think that there's so many people that have grief sense that show up in their life and they don't even know. Like that's what they're doing.
Right.
That's what they're doing, you know, and like, I mean, let's put it out there today. I just want to put it out there. Like, I want grief sense to be a word that's coined. Like, people can just use it. Like, it's something that is a real thing that we experience, and should be normalized. So thank you for indulging me there.
It's beautiful because it's just like you said earlier, so many times we try to hide it, but it's like, we can't hide this. This is the one thing in life that's inevitable. So it's like, with us bringing some type of peace to it, it will allow people to open up in ways that they never saw before.
And speaking of opening up in ways they've never done before, every episode we have at Grief Sense, we talk about how can we choose to express ourselves in different ways. And so I like to ask my guests different creative prompts for them to choose, normalize talking about something that's really hard. So Amonnie, I'll ask you a question that you chose, and then Pop will go to yours. So Amonnie's was, write a short story about someone who was facing the end of their life.
I wrote it on my phone.
Yes, that's completely fine.
This is a little emotional for me, so
take your time. And thank you and really this practice is just to kind of show our listeners, like, hey, some of the creative prompts or the questions that we ask on the show, like, what are some things that other listeners can reflect on their own? Like, what's a creative prompt that they can use to help channel how they're dealing with something that's really hard? And it doesn't necessarily have to be someone who is passing away or someone who has passed, because, you know, grief takes on many forms. But just to kind of normalize the practice, like, hey, it might be hard to just talk about it normally. Like, when someone asks you how you're doing, like, I hate when people ask me how I'm doing when I'm going through loss. Because, like, how am I supposed to answer that question? But if you ask me to write a poem, or if you ask me to write a little something, like, maybe that can help me process it a little bit better.
Exactly. And give you an actual true answer besides just, we're good.
Right.
Exactly. So
Okay, so Garnell Woodard, this is my grandmother. She's a daughter, sister, wife, mother, grandmother, and friend. One of the most selfless, hardworking women to walk this earth.
Got it.
She has many titles, but to me, she is grandma. She is the one who rescued me from my life circumstance at just 8 years old. She's the trailblazer who raised me to the woman I am today. Garnell is a woman of few words, but her actions always tell you everything you need to know. Whether it's that death stare telling you to try me if you want, or if it's the biggest smile saying, I love you and I'm proud of you. Or her biggest form to show her love is her cooking and hosting day and night to make sure your graduation party is perfect. It's hard seeing her become so sick so suddenly, especially because out of everyone, she deserved to leave this earth peacefully. Even through her sickness and dialysis 3 times a week, she remains so optimistic and graceful, even knowing her end is soon. She's the glue that holds her family together. She raised so many kids in our family and never complained, but always welcomed each kid with open arms and love. Mm. My grandmother will forever be my hero, but she has lived such a fulfilling life. I can only hope to have had the impact that she's had.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah. That was really beautiful, and my love goes to you and your family, because I know it's really tough, and there's never words on how to handle that. But sure. I there's a long list of prompts you could have chose from, and you chose that one, so it just shows how strong you are and how open you are to sharing. And who knows, maybe you'll share exactly what you shared today, with your family.
I think that was also the hope in sharing that. She knows how much I appreciate her and love her, our whole family. But I think I wanted to definitely convey to the world, because I feel like the world also needs to know that she is like no other person that ever walked this earth. So yeah, I love her.
And just as much as we honor people who have passed away or people who have transitioned and honor our ancestors, we need to give people who are still with us their flowers too. And so that's what I really admire about that, while they're here, and let them know while they're here.
Right.
So
we had,
that was
recently had our family put together multiple videos just to, put it in the thing so she could see the impact that she's had. Because I know she knows, but sometimes she's so humble. Like, I just feel like
you have to be reminded sometimes.
Feel it. Yeah, I needed her to feel it.
Yeah. Sure. Wow. What a beautiful gift.
Yeah.
She definitely helped change my life, but too, because after coming in her presence, she really just changed me. Like it's wild. Wow. The way she hosts, the way she caters to everyone, I was like, this is her love language is acts of service.
Yeah.
From the time if there's anything going on in the event, she does not stop working. Wow. She will work from the start of the event till past midnight. She's still going, washing dishes, cleaning something up. I was just like,
and making sure people are fed and taken care of, and happy, like event planning isn't just you or even as the SoulBowl, as the vendor, providing the food, right? It's so much more to that. So many different touch points that touch the people at this specific event, and that's beautiful that she's helped impact you too.
Yeah.
So Pop, now it's your turn, your question. And I love that you chose this prompt, because I think it's so fitting for who you are as a person, and how long I've known you since middle school. Two chubby little kids in middle school. Stupid. You always eating chips. I just remember you eating chips a lot.
He's a chip monster. Oh my god.
We always eat chips. That's all I remember.
You can't even keep him in the house anymore, because he'll just pick up the bag in one sitting.
Oh yeah.
Or doing silly stuff in the hallways. I don't even know. You used to be dancing, doing the Harlem Shake in the hallways. I just remember. But it's been a long time since I've known you, and I can say that you're definitely carrying out your legacy. And I just can't wait to see how we will continue to grow. Because are you only 27 or 28?
Yeah.
How old are you?
27.
See, 27. We're both 27. You have so much more that goes with your legacy. But anyways, on this note, Pop, So your prompt was write about the legacy that you want to leave behind and why.
Okay, well, the legacy that I want to leave behind is I came from humble beginnings. You know what I'm saying? We didn't always have the most money. And I feel like sometimes work got in the way of true, you know, making sure your child was fulfilled, making sure that they get what they want. So for me, for my legacy, I want to make sure that my family does not have to worry about financials, that they can, you know what I'm saying, truly enjoy the fruits of life without having to worry about, oh, we got to pay bills. I feel like a lot of the true parts of growing up was put on the back burner just because bills had to get paid. And I just don't want that for my family. I want them to, you know, truly see what life has and see the beauties in life. So I just want to create an experience for them that they can, you know, live and just enjoy.
I love that. Nova, so lucky to have you both as parents. Also, we didn't talk about this on the show, but just congrats. You both have just gotten married, and what a beautiful celebration of life that was for both of you. That was so awesome. Yes, we got the ring. That was so awesome. But yeah, so what a great conversation we had today. Is there anything that you'd like to share with the listeners, maybe how they can get tapped in with you, how to connect with you, how to stay plugged into your work, and where you are on all the socials? So shameless plug it all the way.
So I'm on Instagram at being_Amonnie, AMONNIE, as well as our family page, which is Thomas Family Ties on Instagram.
I am Papa's Kitchen at POPPAS Kitchen. And SoulBowls is the restaurant. It's SoulBowl 860. Before we end, I just want to say thank you to this beautiful woman. She's definitely a testament to my growth. Without her, I definitely probably wouldn't be where I'm at today.
I love that. That was so cute. What a great way to end. And I just want to say it's so beautiful, and it's hard to see in our day and age, just couples our age, just one being married, two being in a really happy, healthy, and strong relationship, and aren't just, just in the dating culture, constant. The hookup culture these days is wild, especially after the pandemic. It's so refreshing, and it's so nice and inspiring to see a couple operating as a unit, as a partnership. Like, even when y'all were boyfriend and girlfriend, y'all wasn't just boyfriend and girlfriend, it was partnership since day one, and I think Willie and I also embody that as well. And you inspire us as a couple too. And I think we just all inspire each other. So I just want to thank you for being in my life and for being part of the podcast. And like I said, I just really wanted your story to touch so many people, like not just Connecticut. These stories will transcend barriers, and wherever you are. And so even though we are in Connecticut, I think the impact of their story will reach the heavens, honestly. I just wanted to.
And the impact of this podcast literally is gonna be so much more than what you.
For sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
Let's
so
manifest it.
Yes.
Oh yeah, for sure. This is gonna be so much bigger than what she thinks it is. Because I'm so excited to see it.
Also, too, it's just very unique. Just because perspective is everything, and it's like you're inviting folks to gain perspective on something that we shy away from so much. And it's like, at the end of the day, it's a fact. We have to just deal with it, and embrace it.
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot. That makes me feel really happy. I'm like getting all googly inside because it just makes me feel like all the loss, and I'm getting emotional, but like all the loss that I experienced, or that that we experience, like it doesn't go in vain. You're honoring it. Yeah. This is how I honor my people. It's like I am honoring them through storytelling and through amplifying people of our stories. And you'll notice a pattern. The majority of my guests are people who are minoritized individuals. Obviously, we'll have a diversity of people on the show, but I think it's so important for the amplification of Black stories, of Latino stories, of Asian stories, of just people whose stories have been censored and, just taken away. We've been taken away from our roots. And I think that storytelling is so powerful for the future generations, because how many stories that we don't have, because it was taken from our parents and our grandparents and their parents. Yeah. And so this is kind of like a medium, like, hey, no, this will never be taken away from you. This was a story that was told today and will continue to be told for generations. So thank you for that. That was really awesome. But, well, thank you both. This was an amazing experience. It was a pleasure having you on the show. And everyone, make sure you get tapped in with the Thomases and the Thomas family ties.
Griefsense Familia. That wraps up another episode of the Griefsense podcast. If this resonated with you, please feel free to share with someone who will appreciate it, and tell a friend to tell a friend. Also, I'm a firm believer that feedback is a gift. So, I'm just saying, I won't be mad if you decide to leave a review and a rating of your experience on the podcast so far. Also, let's help each other find community in grief, and let's amplify these stories far and wide. Thank you for tuning in. En solidarity y con mucho amor, Mimi.